Okay, we are going to be making our phone amplifier or phone speaker amplifier. I made this donkey one, so it's got a sculptural element. It's going to fit a phone into it. This is my phone template, and that has to fit inside. That's going to project the sound out of the mouth or whatever opening you choose to have. I'm starting out with a slab that I have pounded out, and it needs to be long because it needs to fit on here. So I'm going to make sure that it fits in the area that I have pounded out, and I'm going to cut it with my cleaning tool, the blade edge, and I'm just going to trace the edge of my pattern here. You want to make sure your clay is damp enough to stick together, but not so damp that it won't hold up to staying in a round shape. Now I've got this a little bit more oval because it's flat on the end so it doesn't rock around. But I'm going to use my new little angle tool here, and I'm going to set this down, put this part right up against it, and I'm going to angle cut that down the edge there. That is going to help it to stick together better because it's going to give it more surface area right there. Okay, so I'm going to carefully lift it and flip it over because I have to cut the same angle on the opposite side. Okay, so now I can put it together, but I need to hatch my edges. Okay, so I'm going to carefully hatch. It's also called scoring. Flip and do the same thing to this side. Now this is pretty damp, so it shouldn't maybe need to have moisture, but I did get myself a container of water and a paintbrush to kind of tap water in just to make sure it attaches really well. And I'm going to just rehatch that just to make sure that that water is getting incorporated in. And then I'm going to bring my bat over here and I'm going to attach this. So I'm kind of just laying the edges together. See if this works. There we go. And I'm going to smooth that in. Now this is really wet right now, so I'm just going to set it up on end. That will keep it in its circle form better than trying to lay it on an edge. And I'm just going to blend those areas together. You can see it's kind of getting misshapen as I am blending it. I'm going to look inside and see how I can blend that. And I think I might attach a little coil inside there just to make sure that it adheres really well. Okay, so you can kind of see how I have blended that edge in there. But I think I'll take my little scraps and I'll make a little coil, just a little skinny one. Way skinnier than when we did our Greek pottery. So it only needs a tiny bit of clay because I'm just going to measure it up against here and break it off on the measurement there and just lay that coil inside. And that will give it a little bit more stability. And I'll blend that in. You can use your fingers or you can use a clay tool. There are some wood clay tools over in the container that says loop tools, wood tools, ribs, things like that. So that will just give it a little more stability. Okay. Then you need to make a back end. So we're going to take this clay that we've got, this excess clay, and we're going to pound out another slab. make sure you're flipping it often so it doesn't stick to the table. Okay, so that should be good. And I'm going to lay my kind of tube shape on there so that I can, it's not super round right now, but that's okay because my sculpture is not going to need to be really round. So I'm going to cut with my clay tool here, my cleaning tool, around the shape. I'm making it a little bit bigger because I don't want to cut into this form. I'm going to carefully take it off, and I'm just going to hatch that edge. Make sure you really tear into the surface because it's got to be like Velcro to grip. Okay, and I am going to take a little bit of moisture. That's going to help it set down on there and attach. It doesn't look like you need to hatch it again. And I'm going to just take my thing and put it on there, kind of match the edges a little bit. Okay. And I think I'm going to try picking it up and putting it on my bat. Yeah, that will work better because you always want to work on your portable work surface in case it wants to stick, and that way you don't have to worry about it. So what I'm doing is I am smoothing that bottom. I'm just pulling kind of up with my fingers so that it smooths it into the tube shape. Okay, it's not perfectly smooth yet, and I'm going to make a little coil to go in the bottom. Again, you gotta have really wet clay to do this because remember we're working with some new low fire white that doesn't seem to want to work very well unless it's pretty wet. So it's a pretty damp coil, and I'm scooting that down into the edges of my seam down here. It's kind of hard to see what I'm doing, I know, but I'm pushing that coil down into the seam to give it a little more stability. Okay, and make it sure that it's attached really well. It's not going to look real pretty to start, but we can smooth it out. And I didn't get all the way around the edge, so I need to make just a little bit more coil. Kind of hard to get your hand down in there. If you've got a big hand, you're going to have to just kind of push your fingers down, and even though you can't see what you're doing, kind of feel where the seam is and push that coil down in there. And then I'm just using this kind of motion where I'm going down and into the base to push that coil down in. And then I'm just turning my bat to make sure I get all the way around the edges. Okay, you kind of misshaped it a little bit, but that's all right. It's wet clay, so I can move it a little bit. Now I'm going to kind of smooth that out on the inside and kind of support it on the outside. Okay. And then smooth that a little bit more on the outside. And you can always do more smoothing as you go. But right now, I'm just kind of trying to get the shape. Okay, so that's my basic shape. I'm not going to cut that edge in until it's a little bit, or the hole, this hole. I'm not going to cut that until it's a little more set up, but I can attach my sculptural elements. And I showed you this yesterday, that I'm going to make kind of a crow. So I've kind of written on there that I'm going to glaze that part black so that when I do the beak, it's going to look like it's open, but it's still going to be complete right here. So when you see it from the front, it's still going to have like a big open mouth. It's going to have two big eyes sticking up and a few little feathers on the back behind the cut. So I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of eyes, And I'm just going to do like a couple of little balls that are about the same shape, same size. Okay, just roll them out. I'm going to move this so that it's out of the way and I don't bump it. Okay, see if they're the same size. They're pretty close. And I think I'm going to flatten them just a little bit, like that. Take a little bit of moisture because it's cracking right there, and smooth that out so that my sculpture looks nice. Okay, and the part where my thumb was, that's going to be the eye. Okay, right there. So do the same to the other. Smooth that out a little bit. Okay, make sure that my pressed in area looks the same as the other pressed in area. They're pretty similar. They don't have to be perfect, but similar. Okay, and then I'm going to attach them. So I know I want the eyes in front of the little cut area. Okay, and so I have to think about where that area is going to be. I think I'm going to have my cut area right here. Okay, and I'm just kind of marking it out because it's got to be big enough for the template to go in. And when I lay that up there, it fits. At least right now it does. So this is kind of just an estimation. And then I'm going to figure out where I want my eyes. And I'm just going to kind of set them where I think I want them and make a little mark so I know where I want them. Okay. And then this one's going to go over here. I want them to be even. Okay, so I kind of look at my marks, see if they're going to be even. If they're not, then I'm going to kind of draw a line all the way across because I can fix that and smooth it out once I get these attached. So then I'm going to hatch a little bit, or score, however you want to say it. And I want to make sure I lay it this way so I can kind of see, is that where my eyes want to go? Is that going to be even? And I think it is, as long as I open that up when I'm done. Okay, maybe even move this one over just a tiny bit more, and then I'll just smooth that in. Okay, so I'm going to take my eyes, and I'm going to hatch a little bit on the bottom. I might even just trim that so that it's a little flatter on the bottom, and that way it'll attach better. Do the same thing on the other eye. Get a little water, tap that on there. Okay, and then I'm going to attach it. So right now I'm just going to notice that I'm supporting this because I don't want it to fall off of the bat. And I'm just going to set them on there right now to make sure they're in the right place. Okay, I think that's going to be all right. So to attach it, I need to make sure I press down on the eye and support it on the inside. Okay, and then I'm going to use my finger to smooth that in. Right now it's not super well attached, but I'll get it attached better in a minute here. Okay, so then I'm going to see if I can take it off. I'm just sliding it so that I can kind of get it. There we go. Okay, it's really squishy right now. So I'm only doing this temporarily so that I can use my tools to smooth it in and hold it, and it's not like on its side. So if you're having difficulty, you may want to let your slab dry just a little bit, and then when you go to make your pieces that go on there, you'll want to wet those areas really well. Okay, If you feel like you need to add a coil on there to make them attach better, you sure can. And we can always take a sanding screen later and smooth it out if we need to. Like this part is really lumpy and bumpy. I'm not too happy with it right now, but I'll fix it in a little bit. So this is really wet right now. I don't really want to mess around with it too much. I want to get it more rounded. There we go. And I think I'm going to cover this area so that I can work with it. And I'm going to leave this area to dry a little bit more so that when I go to put it down, I'm going to flatten this though because that's going to be the bottom, then I can work with this without it squishing around so much. But you get the idea. You're going to be using your hatching and cross hatching and using some moisture to attach your pieces. And like I'm going to add some feet to the sides. So it's basically going to be a crow's head and feet. But it's a kind of an abstract sculpture. So that's basically the idea. But I'm going to cover this area with plastic and just let it dry a little bit, and then I can come back to it and add the feet. All right, so let's get started.